I don't know why I forgot. I think it was because Oliver came up and asked me to turn Netflix back on, right? Because what I would have liked to do is actually record the part where you were telling us that, you've been going, the website's been up for a couple of months. I'm going to paraphrase it now and you can tell me whether there's anything that I missed. How long's the business been running for then?
I'd probably say that when we launched the website was when we started running the business. So I would say no more than 2 months from memory. Yeah.
Yeah, so really it's a
It's very, very early.
It's a startup business that's already presenting very professionally, right? So, and just for the sake of this video, we just mentioned that we just sort of said that they not only book via the website, but many are coming and they're ringing on the phone. And something that we'd sort of recommend is that you put that phone number front and center, and you might even investigate a 1-300 number. I think the advantage of having a 1-300 rather than a mobile clearly just makes you look bigger and more substantial and more professional, right? But the reality is my 1-300 number just goes channeled straight to my mobile, right? So they're just tied in together. Yeah.
Oh, okay, that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's
perfect.
I'll send you the detail of who I've gone through, but I'm sure there's mainly on the basis just so you don't get taken advantage of. As I said, I've had in the past.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
I was taken advantage of in the past, and there's plenty of people that will sell you a mobile phone number or a contract, but it's a very highly competitive industry. So, So what I was saying in our model, it's very rare that it's social media marketing or Facebook advertising's fault, right? It's often a breakdown somewhere else, right? The breakdown, because the sale happens on the website, or the sale happens at the bricks and mortar premise, or the sale happens over the phone potentially. But generally, in a lot of the businesses we're doing, it kind of happens here. I mean, realistically, as much as I don't ever use the language, we're selling right now, right? So the only way we can sell social media marketing is at the end of the day if someone trusts us and likes us enough to want to do it, right? And believes in it and believes enough in what we do. So realistically, even in our own business as social media marketers and Facebook advertising, it's not that's not doing the sale. So realistically, that's all I wanted to mention at the moment. I think you've been really well set up by the and you've done a fabulous job, yourself and your husband, in making this look incredibly professional, I would say. What's the landscape look like? You said you get inquiry, mainly you want to deliver locally, more locally, but what's the competitive landscape look like?
A lot of them at the moment. So there's in our area, I only pretty much know of maybe one other smoking shisha delivery, but they don't come as far as maybe our areas. Actually, I think they only come maybe halfway.
Yep.
So every other shisha business is more towards like the Parramatta area. I don't know if you're familiar. There's a lot of because it's a Lebanese thing. There's a lot of Lebanese in like Parramatta, Greenacre, Punchbowl, Bankstown. So those areas definitely would have shisha delivery. But up here, it's quite new. So that's why we started this business as well. We thought we could be at least one of the first to start delivering in this area. But so we've only really got maybe one competition up here.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if I said this to you, and I don't think I've even said it to Trisha, but so firstly, I'm a son of the West, right? So I live in Footscray, which is now very Vietnamese, but I'm from Perth in Western Australia. I don't reckon I'd met people from Lebanon until I arrived in Melbourne, right? So because Perth is very limited in its cultures, right? So it basically we don't see an Indigenous person down here in Melbourne, rarely, other than on the football field, right? So, but in WA, I lived in the Kimberley for a while, and a lot of my friends and people I played football with were, Indigenous Australians. We had a lot of English, a lot of Kiwis, and a lot of South Africans. And in the last couple of decades, Malaysian is very strong as well. So, but other than that, that's it. And then I come to Melbourne, it's like 200 cultures. I did live in Saudi Arabia for a couple of years, and I think I said that to you, right? So hence I've enjoyed the occasional shisha just because that's all we could have, right? So you could have cup of tea and shisha, right? And I really remember very balmy Saudi Arabian nights doing that. It was fantastic, right?
Yeah.
But also I work at the MCG, so I think I've said this to you, Trisha, but my side hustle is a job, right? So when I was studying, I got my security license and I work in security and look after the arena at the MCG. So I've seen a couple of state of origins. But all of my mates at the MCG, or not all, but a very high percentage of my mates are Lebanese, right? So,
Oh, there you go.
and not just that, I love um, like the Lebanese pizzerias and
Yeah.
donuts, and the food is
Yes.
just unbelievable. And so, anyway, bottom line is, I kind of feel like I get it in terms of you asked me, have I been to the West? And so, whenever I hear the West, particularly on this coast, um,
Yeah.
that's my people, right? Wherever I've lived, I've always been in the sort of so west of Melbourne is very similar to west of Sydney,
Yes.
and south of Perth is very similar to the west of Sydney and the west of Melbourne, right? So just so you know, the
Yes.
south of Perth is much more your kind of your hardworking, you know, a different type of person, generally Labor voting rather than Liberal voting, you know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they're that just that sort of people. So yeah, I do like. I have been to Parramatta and only a few times, but I do kind of get it a little bit. So
Yes.
anyway,
That's
that was
good.
all.
That's very good then. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's good
yeah.
to know.
Yep. So what you were saying, so really, part of the power of, particularly in terms of what we think around social media, is that if you define that, so you reckon, how big would the radius be? Do you have a defined radius around that you're going to distribute to at the moment?
Yeah, so we've got a radius that we like promote online, and then I think I've given Najib a bit of a radius, which I can send to you guys as well.
Okay. Actually, what about, um, Trisha? Do you want to share your screen?
Sure.
And then maybe just
I have,
just bring the website up if you haven't
yeah, I
already.
have it up
Oh, you've
now.
got it up? Oh, cool. Yep.
So we've got, I think on the website, actually, I think we've got a list of areas.
Yeah, that's why I was thinking it might be good to have the website up. So you've got delivery info, frequently asked questions. Beautiful.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but then
yeah. Oh, that's great. Yeah, so basically, particularly, and at the moment, I know we have sort of the question mark around advertising. But just so you understand that our model, I might get Trish actually to show our model in a second, but our model is about, there's two things, you know, realistically. I don't know if you've heard that marketing communications is a bit like playing tennis or cricket, right? There's only two functions, right? So in tennis, there's serving and receiving, right? And in cricket, there's bowling and batting, right? In marketing communications, there's really only acquiring new people, which is what everybody wants to do, right? Acquiring new people. But they often forget is repeat customers. So once you've got customers, you want to keep them coming back and you want to keep them coming back more. So our strategy is twofold. It's about doing that. Oh, they're all listed there. That's amazing. Right. Okay. There are all the areas. Wow. That's a lot of postcodes. That's amazing. All right, so literally, and that's a good place just to hold it for a second, Tricia. So essentially, what we do, Rita, is we do a Monday to Friday, whether it's every second day or daily, where we basically just educate people on why smoking shisha. I'm looking at the keep calm smoke shisha. I like that. Smoking shisha, but you know, we educate why smoking shisha. We educate what, you know, what is it? What sort of products there are. We educate how, like how do you get the service? And ultimately, hopefully we'll be able to educate people by, instead of you telling everybody how awesome you are, we'll start sharing the reviews that you're getting and people saying how awesome you are, testimonies from other people. So in other words, that's more or less done to educate the people that are in your network, the people that have used your service, and the people that are already following and know you, right? So on a as I said, a daily or every second day, we're just sharing it across the social media channels so that we're reminding people how awesome you are and how awesome it is to you know, smoke your shisha, right? Does that make sense? So in a way, that's not advertised messages. That's just simply reminding people that they should come back and, get it again and again and again, right? And tell their friends. Does that make sense? Yeah. That's before we even do any advertising.
That's exactly right. That's what we want to try and do.
Yeah. But then when we advertise, basically to those, we've got those website areas. So we set the geographic that we want to advertise to, and we're very specific about the interest, right? So we're very specific around who we're trying to do. Now, clearly, the most basic way of advertising would almost be to say, okay, they live here, they're Lebanese, is probably one thing, or maybe Arabic as well. So you could actually go to even Arabic speaking, and you could then also put in other things. I don't know if it will have stuff like recreational smoking, or even Facebook would have a lot of interests, because Facebook, I'm not sure if you know this, right, but Facebook not only owns Instagram, but it also owns WhatsApp, and it clearly has Facebook Messenger, right? So it knows they're the 4 biggest apps on our phones, right? So it knows a lot about us. It knows what we've shared publicly, and it knows what we've shared privately. They well and truly know that you're pregnant, right? So
There you go.
So, in other words, in fact, that's a good example of something you might not promote to, right? You actually might preclude that you don't promote at the moment to pregnant mums, right? So you're not probably smoking shisha for a little while now, I wouldn't imagine. Is that right?
No, I won't be. Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So, but that's a good example of who you would, we often don't take people out, but you can do that, right? So anyway, that's just the idea, understanding that we have an educate, because of the nature of your business. You're not an accountant, you're not a dentist, you're not even a marketer. Ultimately, you cross over to entertainment, right? Because you're a recreation. So in other words, people are going to want to see your posts, right? Because you do cross over to something we enjoy doing. Well, or your target audience enjoys doing it, right? So you should get much higher results than what a professional service would do. So for instance, you would get a higher result than your architect husband doing his business, right? Because there would be more people interested in this as an entertainment than what what needs the services of an architect, for instance. So anyway, maybe what we could do, Trish, if you'd like, would it be okay? And I'll get just Patricia's benefit in many ways, just so that she's got it on her screen, because that way she can keep sharing on hers. But you've got your they each have a bit of a slide deck, Rita, if you want, and I'll just maybe show 3 things from that slide deck, because people often come to us and they say they want to do such and such and such and such, but they actually don't realize what the objectives of doing social media actually are. Does that make sense?
I get exactly what you mean.
Yeah, so most people don't know what they don't know when it comes to social media marketing and Facebook advertising, and particularly people my age, 10 years younger than me and 10 years older than me, and particularly blokes, right? Just so you know. In fact, I might turn my camera off as well, just so I save a bit of bandwidth. That's coming through perfectly, though, Trisha. So
sorry, I was just, because it was just a camera off.
Yeah, no, same for me. No, I'm going to put mine off just for now, just so that it saves a bit on that, and so it might make it a bit clearer too. And so, Trish, if you want
that's right. It was cutting out a bit. Sorry.
Yeah, Trish, do you want to just talk through this slide?
All right. Yeah, sure. So in Diffie Social, what we want to do is to protect, build, and grow our businesses using social media marketing. So we usually have a look at Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, Google My Business, and YouTube. And the purpose is to gain competitive advantages to attract and retain more customers, and to get new ones and attract the ones that you already have. So these are just a couple. These are just our values. During our presentation, we decided we had to pick one, and I chose passion, because well, I love doing this, and everyone, Steve especially, loves doing this. So I think it actually makes us good because we actually love it.
I think we might have to
That's right,
change
yeah.
it. We might have to change for this slide for the benefit of speaking to Rita. Given in this case, we may do some smoke and mirrors.
Yeah.
That's true.
So we're keen. We don't. Yeah. So don't take that literally, Rita.
Yes, of course, yeah.
Yeah. So I think
Uh,
that's interesting because
yeah.
we don't actually have the objectives written on this bit. But anyway, that's okay. So we basically just show this slide, Rita, is because it's funny how many people talk to us and don't haven't actually looked at our website. So maybe you could just let Rita know what our services are. Yeah, Trish.
Yeah. So basically, we are a web to social kind of a service. So that means that, well, just in a nutshell, what we do is we get existing. I'll talk about it in a later slide, but just generally, we repurpose content that's already existing, especially up on the website. That's why the first thing that we usually look at is the website, and the first thing that Steve talks about is the website, because that's where we get our information to educate and to entertain. So just a little, so this is all in our website. It's stiffysocial.com.au if you'd like to have a look. But really, I'm just gonna talk you through what we do. So the first step after the first step is typically a one-to-one, which is what we're doing right now. But usually, if you'd like to push through, the next thing would be an audit and consult, wherein we have a look at all the social media, whatever is existing. So the website, as well as in your case, it would be the website, the Facebook, and the Instagram.
Yep.
And
that's fine, Trish. Yeah, that's all right. Yeah, as I said, it's probably just noting that the first step is normally the audit and consult. So just jump onto that infographic maybe, just so that we could just have a quick look at that. Just because we do have a good website here, it's more just understanding how we apply the model, I think. I put Patricia a little bit on the spot here. Sorry, Rita, just so you know, but she's doing a great job. I just, but yeah, the idea is just to let you know how it sort of all fits in. That's probably the best bet, if that's okay.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, and I noticed that you guys do the audit first, and then you put the plan together, which makes sense.
Yeah, that's right. So we just don't go flying in thinking that we've got the answers until we've kind of done an audit and spoken with you, really. So that's the bottom line. Yeah.
Yep.
You want me Steve, to go through the whole thing, or do you want me to focus on something?
Yeah, so realistically, I think you would just do you just share just the same version that you shared the other day.
Oh yeah, because the last time I did, well, okay, I'm gonna do it the same way I did before. To draw your attention to the middle bit, because I think it really summarizes what we do. So as I mentioned, we're a web to social. So we repurpose content. So we look at what we already have, which is actually pretty good, and we come up with a plan and a schedule depending on the regularity that you'd like us to post on all the social media accounts that we do. So it's really just web to social.
Yeah. And then the main probably thing to note on the left-hand side, which is kind of what we talked about earlier, where social media sort of sits in that marketing house. So often what marketers talk about being marketing, most businesses just call business, right? And so realistically, social media sits up the top and is actually marketing communications, is what we mentioned before. Below that, nowadays, realistically, yes, there is still business to business and business to consumer, but they're all made up of people. And as soon as social media came along, realistically, it's people to people nowadays. So we just make sure that I'm not sure. Do you have a presence at all on LinkedIn at the moment, Rita?
Not with Smokin Shisha, no.
No, but yeah. But for you as yourself, do you have a personal, professional presence?
Yeah, I do, and my husband has one for his business.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So we just make sure that you're an all-star representative of your business and recognize that you are a business owner as well as being, running a particular business. And then Trisha, the one on the right of where Trisha was speaking, it just talks about In Australia, there's a yellow social media report that comes out usually once a year, but it just lets us know that less than 50% of small businesses have ever had a crack at some sort of social media, and of them, less than 30% have ever advertised. So it sort of brings it down to a very small percentage that have any chance to have had any success. What we then talk about, particularly as marketers, and what most people want to know is, well, am I going to make some money out of it? We basically then just price it out. As I said, our pricing's on the website, but the idea is that, okay, how many new sales and how many retain, are you getting additional benefits, additional customers as a result of doing the social media marketing? So then you can qualify, and you should do this for all your marketing, as you said, particularly if you're doing core flute signs, and this as far as just the website and the brand setup and all that sort of stuff. You just want to make sure that you are ultimately making money out of your business, so and your marketing. So you could probably stop sharing that, Trish, but that's great. Thanks for putting that up. It just it's safe. It's nice for me not to have to do it each time, so it's good to have someone else.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem.
Can I just ask though, do you mind if I ask a few questions, or do you have?
Of course. Yeah, no, that's the whole idea. Yep.
My background is actually perfect to event managing. So I used to be an event manager for council. So I do have I used to work really closely with the marketing team. So I got a good understanding of the different types of marketing that's out there, which is good. So it's good to have someone like professional to speak to now, because it's really hard to do it on your own. I usually work with a team. So it's good that you're,
I understand,
talking to me and telling me your expertise. So look, I was going to ask you, so obviously Najib's like giving us some ideas of other ways that we can maybe market through social media. And he was mentioning that maybe we could look into, sorry, 1 second. It's just my husband's phone going off.
Okay.
Sorry about that. Yeah. So basically, I just wanted to see if there was ways that we could look into maybe contacting like groups on Facebook and seeing if we can advertise through groups and things like that. Is that something that you could do as well?
We talk about it in a planning session. We can. It's sort of an added, but it's actually what we encourage people to do that. So did you say you're in local government in events?
I was, but now I was there for 6 years, but now I've just stopped working because the events industry has gone down, obviously through the virus.
Yeah.
So my contract's just finished up and obviously couldn't be extended.
Yeah. What council? So
hopefully I might get back into it next year. Yeah.
What council were you in?
Parramatta. So I know, Parramatta Council.
Yeah. So that. So before I was doing marketing, I was sport and recreation manager in local government for a long time. Right.
Oh, nice. Yes.
So that's my background as well. Look, there's all sorts of tricks that we do. The fundamental model doesn't change, but particularly if you can't advertise, right, then that is definitely going to have to be a strategy, right?
That's right. Yeah.
But realistically, that's not something that requires a great deal of additional effort. It's just a matter of saying, well, okay, these are the posts we're doing. What we would suggest you do midweek or at a designated time. We've got one of the new businesses we brought on just recently actually is a plumbing business in Melbourne's West, and they do a lot of that, right? Because it's just so you know, Trisha, it's a good way of getting the message out with actually how Facebook wouldn't necessarily like it because it's a good way of doing it without having to pay for it, right? So you get massive reach. Most recently, I did it when Dan Andrews gave me a grant. I said, thank you, Dan. And I put it to a few business groups down here in Victoria, and it went like the clappers. And then Business Victoria had to shut it down, but it had already done it, as in they got rid of the post. And they actually sent me a message. They liked my post, but they said, look, we just can't handle the political nature of some of the commentary, because they were coming back saying, you think Dan's doing a good job, do you? And I said, well, it's been good for my business, right? And said, well, you're a dickhead, right? I'm like, okay, well, whatever. But anyway, bottom line is what you're talking about is that it gave me 5,000 reach within an hour. And then,
that's right. Yeah.
And then it makes it a very good post to promote because Facebook goes, oh, bloody hell, this is popular, right? So just so you know, it's a strategy we do use, but it's a strategy that we we encourage. It's a bit like homework, right? Because you're, as you said, and particularly for somebody like you, it's the sort of thing that when we're in a planning session, we'd be going through what we do. Somebody like you, it would be more like saying, well, this is what we'd encourage you to do over and above what we're doing, right? And that might be additional posts, that might be additional sharing to other groups, because it will just leverage what we do. Does that make sense?
Yes, I understand.
You would be well placed to do this where many of our clients aren't, particularly if you're talking to a 55-year-old male. Very difficult to explain to him how to share something across to a group and how to benefit from that. And so often what we do then we'd sort of say to them, well, we can do it. We can have Trisha do it at a maintenance rate. But realistically, in your case, I don't think that would make sense. In fact, I would suggest that you would, in terms of even if you choose to do an audit and have us do a proposal as well, then realistically, we would probably be suggesting just every second day posting on the basis on the days in between, and potentially even on the days that we do post, is that you would probably do a real time type post as well, orders going out, photos of
that
sort of
like
stuff.
live things.
Yeah. But whenever you do that, always think website first. Okay.
Yeah.
Put all your gallery, all that sort of stuff, put it on the website, because remember what Trisha said before, we're a web to social media. So if you put it on your website, you get the advantage of search. And then if you're working with people like us, you get the advantage of social as well, because basically then you become searchable on both, and you get the reach of both as well, right? Because remember, search effectively in Google Ads is about hunting, right? So, sorry, is about farming. It's about people looking for you. But what Trisha and I do with the ads is about hunting, right? So we're about hunting for where they live and people that are interested in doing it, right? It's a different form. So they work well together, but it is a different form of promotion. So did you have any other questions around that? But yeah, there will be things that you would do that would be a natural benefit to what we do.
I'm probably gonna need the guide from you guys. Yeah. And like to be honest as well, like another thing that I have is issues. I have time as well because I work with my husband in his business too, doing the like full time. So having time, having an option for maybe someone else to do it for us, maybe for a couple of months, is if you can give me that option.
Of course.
That'd be good, just to see, like, if it's just to see, like, just have someone run it first, and then I can take over it later, maybe, or just to start it up, or even give us a guide. That'd be good.
On that basis, it may be that what we just build in is, instead of you doing those additional posts, we just build in Trisha's time to do that sort of stuff.
Yeah, it might be good, just even for the first couple of months. I'm happy to invest in that for now.
Yeah, that's a good strategy.
I don't have the time, so I don't want to do it half. I'd rather just do it properly.
It's a very good strategy, particularly to start with, because essentially what you'll find is, and what I was going to say is that it's a very good strategy with the groups, particularly if we can't advertise. Right, so if we can't advertise, we're going to need to make sure that we're getting particularly to the groups that we want to get in amongst, and you'll know who they are, I imagine, right? A lot of those groups. So
I know some of the groups, but I just maybe we can look into some other ones as well.
We'll need to identify who the key sort of groups might be, and I think they'll be the sort of Lebanese cultural sort of community that we really want to be part of, and maybe even just the West, right? So, so we'll have bigger and smaller, but we'll be able to do that. That's fine. Yeah.
And then the other thing I was thinking about was, like, a few of my friends have done this through social media, is like coming up with competitions or giveaways, and then also looking into maybe contacting like people who have quite a bit of followers and getting them to maybe, like, giving them a shisha and getting them to promote us through their social media. Now you can, I don't know if
that's influencer marketing, but we don't do that. So we don't do it. It's a very different strategy to what we do. Influencer marketing is a different strategy. So that's one thing. Yeah, it's a good idea, but again, it's just complementary to what we do. So I'm sure there would be some good people. Increasingly, there's people that we would know that we could perhaps suggest that you might have do that. But I imagine they'd be more easy for you to identify than probably us. I would
Yeah,
say.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think what like a few of my friends told me was maybe like have a title or like content that you give them,
I
and
think
then
both.
yeah,
I think both
that can use your
influencer
content.
marketing and competitions, in my experience, is nowhere near as powerful as our strategy. Just so you know.
Oh, there you
I-
go. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's good to know.
I've used a lot of influencers are basically all out of work at the moment, right? Particularly in Melbourne, right? So there's no influencing to be done. Well, very little, unless they're able to do it because it's an online shop, right? So, but they certainly can't be sipping drinks and eating food, right? Um, but I do have sort of some connections through my networks because it isn't something that we do. Um, but I would say it's questionable for small business. I just don't think
Yeah,
I think it's maybe better for brands, but that's because we don't typically like brands. We do like real people, and
that's right.
you're already a real person, right? So
Yeah,
so in some ways, you're the influencer. You as the business owner, you will influence it in a particular way. But with
yeah,
regards to competitions, the problem with competitions, it's nowhere near as if we can advertise for you, it's nowhere near as uh, targeted as what advertising is. So in other words, competition, you just get people that want to win a competition, not people that
that's
want to
right.
not people that actually want to smoke shisha. Well, they probably do want to
Yeah,
smoke shisha, but
yeah,
yeah, so it could still work. But I think we'd only look at that if we can't do. But even that,
yeah,
I would say that if we can't advertise, you'd also need to look at whether we're allowed to do competitions because I would think they're roughly the same. But so in my experience, it's much better to spend $1 than give monetary towards a competition because it's a much
yeah,
better
which yeah, I'm
opportunity.
happy to look into.
Yeah,
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 that's fine. All right. So look, I'll go ahead and do the audit.
yeah,
If you want to do that next stage, that way we can see
yeah.
what ideas you come up with. How does that
Cool.
sound?
Sounds great. And then it would just be a matter of we'll send you the detail, but just a matter of booking a time. We could even maybe look at doing this same time next week if you wanted to, or unless you wanted to do it earlier. But this time next week might even work again.
Yeah, I don't mind even if it's on Wednesday. I don't mind as well because Wednesday I'll definitely be here
Okay.
at home in the office.
Yep.
Can we look into a Wednesday just so we can at least obviously start
Yeah.
doing
Yeah.
it earlier as
Get
well
it
would be
going.
good.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll I reckon we could probably would afternoon be still okay on Wednesday?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, that should be fine. Yeah.
It might be sort of 1:30, maybe 1:30ish, or something along those lines next week. But
Okay,
we'll
and do you want me to book that or you guys will book
no,
it
we'll
in?
do it. We'll come back to you because you might find it hard to
Okay,
do for that time. So we'll come back to you. I'll have a chat
yeah,
with Trisha and make sure how her timing is as well. I'll get Trish and we'll work together
yeah,
on it. And,
perfect.
that's great, but we'll put it in. I'm
Perfect.
sure Trisha's already put that in the diary, so we'll make sure we don't miss it, and we'll make sure that certainly, if
Yeah,
not by the
perfect.
end of today, we'll
Yeah,
early, probably on Monday, you'll have something just so we know where we're going. Yeah, and you'll
perfect. Sounds good. All right, that's perfect then. Thanks for your time. It's nice to meet
yeah,
you
you
guys
too.
online. That's how
Yeah,
it's going to be from now on.
it was
So,
really good for
everyone.
Najib to introduce us because who'd have thought, right? Very strange. In the previous Corona world, we wouldn't be speaking to each other. I think.
That's right.